The purpose of today's collaboration is to really go through and show a best of breed approach to early detection of threat across endpoints, wired data, the network, and events with a SIM. And to that end, we have assembled an august group of speakers from all of the participants. My name is Bruce Johnson. I'm the Director of Enterprise Security for TekStream, and we are most often implementers of these type of security solutions. So that's kind of our perspective. Gran?
Thank you. And as most of you guys might already know who I am, my name is Gran Naomi. I'm a solution architect for CrowdStrike. I have been with CrowdStrike going to 3 years. And today's Tech Talk, I am very excited because I think that all the 3 solutions that we have fit so well together. And with me, I have Tom. So Tom.
Hey, thanks, Gran. This is Tom Rowe with Extrahop. I run the technical practice and the Extrahop U.S. public sector practice. I've been with the company for a little over 6 years. Yeah, and we've got some interesting stuff here planned for you all today. Gran and Bruce and Mandy and I have been collaborating quite closely here over the last several weeks, so we can't wait to show it to you. But I'll hand off here to Mandy next.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Mandy Coakley, and I am a sales engineer for Splunk. I mostly serve the Georgia area with state and local government. I'm going to be showing you the Splunk side. So, what you can do with CrowdStrike and Extrahop data. And we'll do a quick little tour through the SIM solution so you get see what you're able to get with that as well.
Cool, thanks, Mandy. So back to me, it's Bruce. Our first test question, how many are in a Triad? And we'll hold the answer for after the demo. Hint, it's not 4. Moving to kind of what we do, what TekStream does for a living. We are solution implementers. Sorry, go back. Just want to move this little drop down. So we're most often solution implementers. We kind of help our customers own the problem, if you will, of security ownership from cradle to grave. So, putting together software deals that that bundle in services or that provide very unique discounting, providing services to implement, most often in a Splunk context, but obviously across the ecosystem, the security ecosystem. Our expertise started with consulting, and we outsource much of the ODS for Splunk. We do a lot of implementations. We do a lot of managed services, managed security services, outsourcing for a lot of marquee customers. And then we provide support in that context as well as actually finding professionals. And of course, we have our most common security frameworks along the bottom. In terms of kind of setting the stage for our demo today, this is kind of what I like to think of as the bobblehead slide. Basically, this is the reality that all of us are dealing with, and this is the context that we want to try and put forth this solution. So obviously the pressure is higher, the threat surface is broader, the attacks are much more creative with machine learning based attacks, collaboration, outsourcing of attacks to different agencies. So for us, the threat landscape is varied and our budgets are getting smaller, so we have to consolidate tools. And that is really the reason for kind of taking a best of breed approach between tools like CrowdStrike, Extrahop, and Splunk that are very broad, very capable, and allow for very efficient automated response. The premise behind our demo today, obviously, we're including endpoint, network, and end-to-end visibility and response with the Splunk platform. So in the context of our demo scenario, we're really looking at kind of internally focused threats. We're going to kind of follow from initial access to lateral movement to privilege escalation, command and control, data exfil, kind of the whole gamut, the whole MITRE attack chain, MITRE attack framework, and kind of walk through from each of, from one product to another, handing it off between each of the speakers. So, the idea here is we're going to detect early and respond quickly. And with that, I will hand it off to Gren.
Thank you. And it's very important to understand this triad, where all three products will play a really important role when it comes to really detecting early detections, first of all, in both the endpoint detection and response and network detection and response, and give this visibility across the entire enterprise environment and better understand what the cyber criminal is doing out there. And as you guys know, CrowdStrike, and if you can just click next one, please, Bruce. We don't take our word for it. We have so many different achievement and awards from all the third-party vendors out there, Gartner, Forrester, and so on. And as you might already be familiar, and if you can click the next one, Bruce, please. Falcon platform, this is our bread and butter. The CrowdStrike threat graph is our backbone, and we are going to have this lightweight agent that will be able to be deployed in any type of endpoint with any type of operating system, and then we are going to be able to collect it once and use multiple times with all these different modules. And as you can see here, this platform expands day by day, but today we are going to concentrate more on the EDR piece and the early detection and not prevention, because we want to show you how what type of visibility we have on the endpoint, and we want to show you that down the road you can set those policies to directly prevent, but we wanted you to be able to see everything else in the detections, early detections, and how we can integrate with Extrahop and Splunk, which we are an API first company, and you see in the sides there next to the different modules the API piece, and we can integrate with a lot of technology partners out there. I think next ones is, yeah, I will give it to Tom.
Yeah, thanks, Grant. So I think if there's one thing you take away from today, and if you're not familiar with the SOC triad, it is that graphic there on the left. And effectively, the SOC triad is what Gartner and now a whole lot of other analysts have really agreed upon is really what you need to have security operations practice operating on all cylinders. And for me, it's more about the data. If you fundamentally think about all of these, you have CrowdStrike, sitting on the endpoint. You have Extrahop, which I'll talk more in a minute, which is a little bit more focused on collecting network telemetry, and then Splunk collecting machine data and logs and all the various data that it can collect. And the sum of the three really does, give you the best of all worlds from a detection, response, prevention perspective. As far as the network itself goes, one of the things that we really focus on here within Extrahop is kind of this notion of next generation network security. I rather imagine all of you have, network firewalls in some way, shape, or form within your environment. Firewalls typically are deployed, on the perimeter, north, south. But most enterprises today are pretty challenged when it comes to east-west network security. We talk about this notion of 70% dark space, where, at the end of the day, you can't protect what you don't know about. If you don't have network visibility within the enterprise, it's going to be hard to protect it. There's not only just the east-west challenges of it, but there's the whole challenges associated with encryption. And Extrahop has some pretty powerful mechanisms for decrypting traffic on the wire as well. You take into account things like the dwell time that's out there today, and then in some cases, the destruction of logs and the deactivation of, logging platforms and like logging services. I've seen, various cases, malware shutting down the logging services on Windows devices. It really does help to have multiple different data sets, like I said in the previous slide, to identify what's going on in your environment. And then last slide here. So network detection and response, if that's not something you're familiar with, EDR and SIM-based platforms are fairly mature here at this point, but the whole vernacular of network detection and response is kind of newish. Basically you're talking about a sensor of sorts that gets deployed within your environment, observing real-time passive analysis of network packet data that ultimately does give you the capabilities to both detect threats and attacks in real time. We give you the insight and ability to investigate attacks as they unfold over time. It's not enough to just have an alert. You need to be able to investigate and get context into that. But then you also need the capability to intelligently respond to, which in some cases may be fully automated workflows or semi-automated workflows. And that's some of the stuff we can talk about here within Splunk and CrowdStrike today, how these tools can be used together. In one case, one tool might detect something and another tool might put an impacted devices into a quarantine state or something like that. So I believe that's all I've got from a slide perspective.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Oh, hi, everybody. So I'm again with Splunk, and I'll be talking about, how we fit in this triad. So, they kind of already mentioned it. Gren does, the CrowdStrike does the endpoint, Extrahop does the network data, and Splunk will actually bring in all of the real-time events or the alerts that are coming from these different tools, right? So if you've got alerts from Extrahop, from CrowdStrike, you can bring it into Splunk, and that will help you be able to monitor those points into one platform. So the power of Splunk is that it can take any data that's structured or unstructured from any source, which is why we can take in CrowdStrike and Extrahop from any time scale from milliseconds to months. And it will, because of this, it will allow you to take action on your data, right? Because you can investigate, monitor, analyze, and take action. So when we bring in these events, you're going to be able to get the value out of it quickly, right? We're a real-time platform. All of this data is going to go into your SIM, and you'll be able to run those correlation searches that you need to keep your environment safe. As you can see, on the bottom, we have a variety of different use cases. Security is what we're going to be focusing on today, but do keep in mind we're a data platform, so we do quite a bit. Thank you. Next slide. Okay, and Splunk Enterprise Security is what you would call a analytic SIM. If you think of more traditional legacy SIMs, they're not going to be able to take in the same data sources that Splunk can. So an analytics-driven SIM is based on a big data platform, which is the Splunk platform itself that Enterprise Security sits on top of. And it provides analytics from across all your security relevant data. So not just your firewalls, but from your endpoint and from your network detection tools that you have. So this allows your security operations to monitor your threats in real time and respond quickly to these incidents. So we've all talked about avoiding or limiting the damage that's caused to be able to respond to these threats quicker. And Splunk Enterprise Security will allow you to do that. And I'll show you a little bit more of that when we get into the demo portion. Okay, and if you could just click it all the way. Thank you. So this is a bit of a wordy slide, but I wanted to talk a little bit about Phantom as well, right? So we're talking about also needing automation in the SOC, and Phantom is our source solution. So I would say in all SOCs, you probably have tasks that need to get done every day. You probably have the same activities that you do when you're trying to investigate alerts. So instead of having to hire more people, which we know in public sector can be a challenge to meet the demand of personnel, how about automating some of these tasks? So your analysts can focus more on, threat hunting or the more serious threats that need to be handled by a human. So just keep that in mind. We won't be able to touch on Phantom too much today, but if you have any questions, you can reach out to me. And that's it. Thank you.
Maybe back to Gren. You want to kick us off?
Yes, thank you so much. So today's demo scenario will be the attacker with the Kali Linux. I am going to set up a listener on Kali, and then directly from there, once that is set up correctly, I'm going to send a phishing email to that computer, the Windows 10 detection. And the end user, as we know, is going to open that email with that document file. And as soon as that document is opened, we are going to be able to have a direct connection with that endpoint. And from there, we are going to be able to, first of all, get admin access, as well as move laterally on those 3 other computers. Then once I have access and I can connect to those different computers, I will also be able then to move laterally on the manufacturing facility. The only difference here is that on the left side, on the corporate HQ office, we have CrowdStrike, Splunk, and we don't have NDR. On the other side, in the manufacturing facility, and I'll let Tom expand more, but that facility will have Extrahop. And basically at the end, we are going to tie everything together in Splunk. So this demo will be in 3 pieces. I will show what CrowdStrike on the corporate HQ office will be able to show, and how we can really detect every single event that happens on the endpoint. And as you know, the lateral movement is one of the most difficult pieces to show for other vendors out there, because they don't have that deep visibility to see everything what's happening. And Tom, do you want to explain a little bit the Extrahop environment?
Yeah, I mean, effectively, and I guess to really speak on how these tools get deployed in a little bit more detail. I mean, I guess as an EDR platform, CrowdStrike has its endpoint software that's deployed, on your workloads, on your endpoints, devices throughout your environment. As an NDR solution, Extrahop is passively watching network traffic within the facility in which it's deployed. And so Extrahop, we make a whole host of quote unquote network sensors, physical sensors, virtual sensors, probes, cloud-based, on-prem based, etc. But if you're familiar with terminologies like span, port, network tap, and the like, that's basically what we're doing in the manufacturing facility on the right-hand side. So Gren will kick off the attack, from the corporate headquarters office, from the Kali workstation, like you mentioned. And that attack will eventually progress over to the right, where we don't have CrowdStrike. I mentioned we have kind of a legacy antivirus solution in that manufacturing facility, but we'll basically give you a feel here how all the different technologies can drive anomaly detection and alerting, and then give you the insight to visualize these attacks, and then centralize them into a centralized Splunk demo as well. So if any questions about how all this is deployed, feel free to drop stuff into the chat as well.
Excellent. Yeah, I am going to give maybe a couple of seconds to attendees if they have any questions. And then what I'm going to do is share my environment and go a little bit over the attack and the visibility that we have. Any questions so far from anyone? Please feel free to just interject if there is any question. Perfect. CrowdStrike platform, I'm sure that most of you are very familiar with it. You have this big overview where you are going to see everything that is going on and what is most important in your environment. Something that I want to take it to call your attention is the crowd score, because this crowd score will give you really visibility on your security posture, and it will give you a single and easy to understand metrics that will clearly communicate if there was anything going on, and also the severity. As you can see here, the CrowdStrike over time will also tell you when those attacks took place, so you can have a better understanding what happened. Of course, you have the detections in here that will really show what happened. However, I want to take you over to CrowdScore. CrowdScore is going to be a place where we are going to bring all those different incidents. And in the difference between incidents and detections is that incidents will bring different type of detection that can be isolated in the analyst's eyes. However, they have something in common because, for example, the lateral movement. It will show you if one cyber criminal got into your environment and then directly from there went over and moved laterally. You have different tags and different searching options in here, but we are going to concentrate more in this demo on the lateral movement. And I think that there was a question, and we can answer that. Chris asked, does the Splunk spoken about in the diagram integrate directly with CrowdStrike Splunk database, allowing the querying from Crowds?
I mean,
yeah.
I can kind of add a little color to that, Gren. The Splunk is leveraging the API directly to CrowdStrike. Although obviously CrowdStrike does employ the Splunk platform underneath that covers for some of its capabilities. There's a lot of algorithmic special sauce and intelligence that goes into CrowdStrike's solution. And we really want to, as you know, from Splunk perspective, as a SIM, it really is a force multiplier. So it wants to kind of leverage the CrowdStrike platform, and therefore we use the API to get alerts or any of the messages that we need to expose.
Thank you. I hope that this answered your question, Chris. But we can go more in details when Mandy is going to go over the Splunk piece. But what I wanted to explain here is this attack, this incident summary. This incident summary will give us a lot of information about what happened, what hosts are involved, as well as all the user accounts and this incident timeline summary. On the same time, we have the possibility directly from here with a single click to directly restrict the network connectivity. And we are going to be able to contain all of this host directly. Basically, this will be one of the first steps when there is an incident going on, because directly from there, we are going to be able to restrict the connection. And then we can go more in this incident workbench, which will have different tabs to better understand what was going on. I personally prefer this graphical overview. I am most a person that like to understand what was going on. And you have in this view also different tools that will help you understand what was happening. You can replay the entire attack and you are going to see all those different processes, which one executed first, what they were trying to do. And when you see this attack tree, you are going to see what I was explaining earlier, that somebody opened Outlook, and then from there was Word, a document that opened up and spent PowerShell, and then basically I went through to get some more information about where I am, what I can do, delete in here all the different application logs, or try to delete the shadow copies, as well as move laterally. And then directly from that computer that I gained admin privileges, I was able to move laterally using the WMI created processes, or directly as well authentication connection. As you can see here, it will give you a lot of information about from what computer to what computer we moved laterally. You can directly connect to host using the real-time response, network contain one or the other computer, and as well have an understanding about every event that happened. What process started? What is the process name? The command lines of each and every processes. You can as well here filter to directly go into network operation, what this specific application connected, what the PowerShell, the activity of the PowerShell for the network operations, and so on. Those different tabs that you have open in the bottom will help you really pinpoint what is most important for you, and then also really concentrate on this, use it as a workbench, concentrate on what is most important, and better understand the entire attack life cycle as well. You can see here, we show all the command lines, the file path. We give you information about the contextual detection as well as the correlation with a MITRE attack framework to understand what they were trying to do. And all the data that is available will be available even though the endpoint is maybe turned off, because all the data will be directly sent to the cloud, and we are going to have that visibility across the entire platform. Now, like I said, like we showed in that diagram from one of those computers that I connected laterally, it is the 2000, this one here. We also moved laterally to the other site where Tom is going to walk us through the detection capabilities of Extrahop.
Sure thing. Thanks, Grant. So just going back to our diagram here, he pretty much walked you through what occurred here at the corporate headquarters office, but I'll walk you through how that attack effectively moved laterally across the network from a plain Jane Windows workstation into an IoT device that we have in the manufacturing facility, and then proliferated from there into a database server itself. So again, keep in mind, Extrahop is basically doing what it does from a passive network observational perspective. So flipping into my Extrahop UI right now, and I've trimmed out some of the other stuff for the purposes of the demo here today, just so I can keep it focused given the time frames here. But this is basically what you see when you first log into Extrahop. Lots of visualization and display capabilities we have here within the product, oriented around the cyber kill chain, the MITRE attack framework, top offenders, top detections, etc. Again, as a visibility platform, one would expect that Extrahop can, identify, connectivity and connections and traffic on the network, which we can certainly do. Whether that traffic stay internal within the enterprise or whether or not it crosses the proverbial perimeter or the boundaries of the network itself. So loads of different visualization capabilities that we have to not only show you, just the behavior of network traffic in your environment, but also to give you insight into, potentially concerning areas. We've got X amount of traffic from our environment going out to China, for example, might be something that we'd be interested in. And do we have any large uploads, which in this case we don't, traversing the perimeter? So you start to get into, some type of data leakage capabilities here as well. But what I want to do is really focus in on the actual scenario that we have in place here. So I'm going to bring you into our detections navigation here. And I'm going to assort basically the data from a time frame perspective. And so if you walk this up from the bottom, this whole thing started via a Ripple 20 exploit. And if you're not familiar with that, you can go Google it. That's a TCP stack vulnerability in various IoT devices that landed last year. Pretty bad too. I want to say the number of known IoT devices that were known to be impacted were in the tens to hundreds of millions. This is what you see right here is what we call Extrahop detection cards. And the whole idea with a detection card is, yes, it's an alert, but it's also an alert with, in most cases, quite a substantial degree of context around what actually occurred here. So in our particular case, that attack moved laterally from that Windows machine in the corporate headquarters facility, and it basically came and hit our pc2i.rx.tours device. The detection card here explains exactly, what triggered the detection here. And without going into a whole lot of detail on the Ripple 20 exploit is at least an attacker can identify whether or not a machine is using the Ripple 20 TCP stack just by using a certain type of ping packet. And that's actually what's described right here. So in a lot of cases, our detection cards right here are going to give your security operations staff exactly what they would need to be able to understand the context of what's going on. But as I flip forward in time here, literally 1 minute later here, we also see a TCP SYN scan originating from the device that just got scanned here. So this is now pc2i.rx.tours that's doing SYN scans downstream. TCP SYN scanning is just a common reconnaissance technique that oftentimes people, you think about SYN scans from the context of the internet, north-south, but it's important to have that visibility east-west within the enterprise as well. Because it doesn't take much for a single machine to become compromised within the enterprise, which then again, moves out laterally and starts attacking all types of machines downstream. So there are lots of different ways to investigate these detections in more detail. Although the description that you have here, it has a pretty good set of detail right there. But if I drill in here, this is what we call our expanded detection cards here. You can see, more descriptive information over here on the right-hand side that actually describes both textually and graphically, what this attack behavior is. We also map these out to the MITRE ATT&CK framework as well. And this is a horizontal alignment of some of the related detections within the attack campaign. But what I want to get to in this particular view is a kind of a graphical representation of the SYN scanning that's occurring. And bear with me real quick as my mouse has fallen asleep, which is awesome. I will scroll down here now, and you can see the scanned devices itself and the port and protocol combinations that the attacking device, in our case, which is that PC2 device, is scanning on the network here. So, you're one click away from the master detection here to get, progressively deeper detail, and if you're a security analyst investigating this type of stuff here, that, yeah, looking at all these port combinations, that definitely looks like a TCP SYN scan. So, lastly, again, I'm walking through this attack chronologically, literally right at the same time that the TCP SYN scan happened. I mean, literally within some matter of seconds. We also identify a database brute force detection attempt that was instantiated against that database server as well. So that's that same compromised IoT device that we had earlier, pc2i.rx.tours, compromising db1.i.rx.tours. And I'm going to drill in a slightly different manner here in this case. If I drill down into the device itself, this actually gives you insight into a whole host of metadata and statistics that we have that describes the individual devices that are in your environment here. So if you look at db1.rx.tours, we know the IP address, its history. In a lot of cases, we know which users have been authenticated to it at any one point in time or the other. There's a very big component to Extrahop that's focused on asset classification and categorization, you know, understanding operating system versions and roles within the environment. We auto-detected that this was a database server based on the traffic profile within the environment. We've also pulled out some of the AWS tags themselves. This whole demo environment for this remote manufacturing facility really technically is being run in Amazon right now, but lots of different device attribute information that Extrahop can ultimately obtain off the wire in real time. So I've shown you some of the other graphical visualization capabilities here already. Really what I want to double down on here and now is investigating this brute force database activity in a little bit more detail. And here's where you really start to dive into the underlying Extrahop engine that's analyzing these network packets. In some degrees, when I'm talking to network audiences, I like to describe Extrahop as, you know, under the covers as a Wireshark on steroids, because we can analyze at scale, at line rate, fully layer 2 through layer 7, a whole host of enterprise protocols that are firing off within the environment. And to an extent, to a large extent, where we can actually pull off transactional data across the environment, you know, SQL transactions, error messages, web transaction, API calls, again, without any type of agent footprint or anything like that. In this particular case, I can tell you the exact database transactions themselves, and in this case, the error messages that we're seeing here on the wire. You know, and as a trained security analyst here, it doesn't take me a whole lot to really look at these error messages here to understand that there is some type of, you know, anomalous brute forcey type of activity that's going on here. The fact that I have 5,000 failed authentication attempts for user root or user administrator, that absolutely seems suspicious to me. And if I want to, I can dive in more detail now. You know, I can go in and look at this on a transaction by transaction basis, where here I have an individual slice in time, an individual log or a record, if you will, where we see the PC2 client talking to the DB1 server, you know, attempting to connect, but ultimately getting rejected here. And it's the whole sum of, you know, thousands of these that ultimately led to the Extrahop system detecting that this is a brute force attack. But the main thing I'm trying to get across here is the protocol visibility here itself that ultimately drives a lot of our both signature and behavioral based detections, but then all the underlying metadata and statistics itself that we have available in our system for folks to come in and do response analytics, threat hunting. You know, for that matter, if you want to come in here and download a raw packet capture for an interesting transaction, you can certainly do that kind of thing as well. And that's me doing this on the fly. So that's all I was going to show you here. And now I'm going to hand off to Mandy, who will show you how all of this stuff comes together within Splunk.
Thanks, Tom. So you all saw some really great information that CrowdStrike and Extrahop has been able to populate with their environment, right? And that includes all the alerting capabilities that they have and any type of raw events that they're creating in real time. All of that can be sent into Splunk and help you kind of follow that path or use the correlation searches that would be appropriate to help determine those attacks. So let me share my screen here. Okay. So what you're seeing here is the Splunk homepage, right? And one really cool thing about Splunk is that we have thousands of apps that help us integrate easier with other vendors like CrowdStrike and Extrahop. So they have out-of-the-box dashboards that you can use here, or you can even create your own. So instead of having to swivel chair, everything comes into one single location, and you're able to create these visualizations to help you run your investigations from one platform. So what I want to focus on today is this Triad app that we have all worked on. And this is just an example of what you can do with all this data coming in. So we'll go into the dashboard. Actually, before we do that, so let me just explain this a little bit here. I'm gonna just type in a really quick search. And we're gonna do this all the time just to make sure everything populates. So what you're gonna be seeing populate are the raw events. So if you go to the source here, you'll see we've got some CrowdStrike data. We've got some Extrahop data. This is demo data, so it's not gonna look exactly like this in a real-time environment, but I'm just showing you what we have in here now and what we had to work with. And with this data, we were able to create a dashboard here for endpoint and network monitoring. And what I wanted to include in here was to show CrowdStrike and Extrahop data together that would assist you in being able to, monitor, investigate, right? So right here is the device scan. Ripple 20 is one of the detection types that are associated with this attack. So you can create these to help you monitor what's going on, right? So we have the risk scores that are prioritized. So you can click on one of these and drill down into the raw events, or you could use the Extrahop top offenders. CrowdStrike has also done their alerts and ranked them by severity. So you could even click on each of these to drill down into the raw events, and it would look something like this. So I chose to click on the actual device scan and anything associated with that detection type. So you can expand one of these out, and it'll show you, the host. It'll show you the offenders, who was the one that kicked this off, who was the victim, and it separates it all out. And that's how you're able to create these dashboards. You don't need to really know any SPL to get value out of it right away. So if you've got a bunch of offenders, and this was how I made the dashboard panel, you can just click on these top values and it'll generate a visualization for you that looks like this. So it's got some really valuable information here. If you don't remember, this was the computer name that was involved in this attack, right? So it's starting to build the pieces together for you, but with just this view, you would have to investigate this yourself and put all the pieces together. And that's where the SIM solution would come in handy. So right here, we've got enterprise security. Now keep in mind, this is installed on top of the Splunk platform that has all of the data coming from Extrahop and CrowdStrike and any other type of security data source that you need to be able to monitor. So Tom mentioned a lot of East and West and being able to get full coverage over all of your environment. Splunk will allow you to do that because it's all on a single platform. It's going to catch all of those events that you need to be able to run these correlation searches, and you don't have those blind spots that he mentioned. So when you first come into enterprise security, you're going to come into the security posture. Now, this is really great for CISOs because this is going to give you an overview of what is going on in the whole environment, right? So your leadership will probably want some type of key performance indicators, right? So these are the ones that are within the demo, but you can edit this and choose the ones that are most important to you. So if you wanted to add one, you can scroll through here and choose which key performance indicators you want to be able to see every single day. These are changing in real time. You can add in thresholds to determine what is a good value for you versus what's not a good value for you. So that's a really, really cool feature there. And then you'll have these broken up by the urgency of the notable events. And I'll get into that here shortly, what a notable event exactly is. But whichever searches are the most critical, and you'll get a description of what's going on currently, right? So this is all in real time. But we're talking about analysts here in most cases, right? Analysts are going to be in CrowdStrike, analysts are going to be in Extrahop, and then you're going to be in Splunk here, looking at your environment. So I actually have one open already. So what I did here is I'm in the incident review page where all of our notable events are being populated. And what a notable event is exactly is a priority based off that are ranked in your assets and your identities that you have. So it'll be based off of, how important is this asset and what is the severity of the threat. So based off of those rankings that you give your assets, it's going to put this urgency assignment here. So I couldn't, unfortunately, it's pretty tough to be able to map out assets and identities with CrowdStrike and Extrahop. So I'll show you what it would look like with these two together in Splunk. So if you expanded one of these notable events you'll see some really great information. You'll see some additional fields that are important, right? So this is called a key value pair, which means that Splunk knows that the logs that are involved with this correlation search are going to have a certain value. So this is the value in the raw data that is being populated. So you'll see things like the device IP address, you'll see the signature, maybe you'll see a source IP. So a lot of really great, valuable information will be in here. And you can even take action on these if you needed to. So you can scroll down and click and see what we have here, right? If you wanted to map it or Google it. So really, really cool. If you look to the right side, what we've got here is some information about what the correlation search was that was kicked off. You can review all the activity for the notable event, right? So since this is a correlation search, there's going to be information from CrowdStrike and from Extrahop. You can look at the sequenced events that make up this correlation search. So instead of having to go and investigate it by using that dashboard I created, you can just rely on the SIM to be able to make all those connections for you based off of all the correlation searches that are within the SIM. And Splunk and enterprise security will also do some actions on your behalf. We call those adaptive responses. So these are ones that were automatically kicked off when the correlation search was detected, but you can add more. So if you go up to this action arrow here and you go to run adaptive response actions, you can add a new one. These are just some examples here, right? If you've got CrowdStrike, you probably, or if you got Extrahop, you probably will have some different ones in here, but I just wanted to show you that we do integrate with other technologies if necessary, and you wanted to include it in your adaptive response actions. Now, what enterprise security will also do is it'll recommend next steps for you. We don't have any here, but it'll tell you, hey, this is what I would do next. And this is where Phantom could come in, right? So your analyst would probably do these next steps normally, but if you have Phantom, you can automate some of these steps to be taken for you automatically. So if you're in a department with a high number of alerts and your analysts have alert fatigue, Phantom would be the perfect place to be able to do those actions for you. Also, if you wanted to create an investigation based off of this, you could do that too. So we will add this event to an investigation. Let's see. Let's create it. And we'll just call it demo and hit save. Then you can open it up. And it already extracted the IP address associated with this. So any of those IP addresses that are within that demo, that diagram that was shown, you can extract the IP addresses for all of those events or the host names and put them into an investigation. And what it's going to do is it's going to populate this for you. So you don't have to go find everything. So as you can see, right, it's pulling up all this info here for you automatically. You've also got the capability of pulling up data from the endpoints, and you've got the capability of pulling this data from the network. So just another way to show how we can all work together. And now you're building your investigation. So there's a few things that you can do here, right? If you need to collaborate with other members, all you'd have to do is hit this plus sign to include other users. If you wanted to write any notes, you could do that on the fly here. Or if you needed to run any quick searches, you could do that as well. So it really shows the capabilities in creating an investigation. We've also got a timeline here. So if you do have to brief somebody, your manager, if this is a bigger incident, maybe you have to go to leadership. This timeline is a really great way to illustrate that. So you can see when things occurred and, be able to tell that story to people who aren't in enterprise security every day. Okay. And we also do take advantage of a number of other features, right? So we do threat intelligence. So if you have threat intelligence feeds, you can bring that into Splunk as well. Splunk did their own threat intelligence feed with the Sunburst malware, but you all are well aware that there's plenty of other different types out there. We've also have these dashboards, right? Now CrowdStrike and Extrahop, they have fantastic illustrations. I saw them, they were pretty slick. But these will also allow you to have them in one place as well. So you could have your endpoint data here and have your network data here as well, right? And then this is where you would configure some of that stuff. So I think that is it for me, unless there's any questions.
Oh, I just wanted to reiterate again the fact that how easy it is to bring all this data into Splunk, and how easy it is to also show this data. As you mentioned earlier, we have different, we have threat intel feed as well that we can bring the intelligence into the Splunk as well. So all three softwares will really fit into place in this triad, and I'll let Bruce maybe take it over here and just close it out.
Yeah, thanks, Grant. Really, to close it out, we wanted to share the different, the call to action for different people to follow up with. Hopefully the demo end to end showed you the power of each of these tools and the collective leverage that they provide with one another. Obviously, endpoint security, particularly automated end-to-end endpoint security, is a very tough nut to crack. And obviously the network doesn't lie, so visibility to that is critical to an attack. And then pulling it all together into one environment. Hopefully you've seen that kind of illustrated here. There's a lot more obviously behind all of this. If you want to contact TekStream, Extrahop, CrowdStrike, or Splunk, the numbers are there, and obviously the presentation will be available after it's complete. Any questions that we have online?
And most of you guys, if you need to reach out to us, of course, you can see the call to action. But I just wanted to thank you again for joining this Tech Talk. And I specifically wanted to thank everybody that helped make this possible. I want to mention Larry and Dion and Ron and everybody in this team that made this talking of all the engineers possible, but more specifically Tom and Mandy for their hard work to show this great integration and this triad. Perfect. If nobody else has anything to add, Larry, did you want to add anything, or Dion?
I just wanted to thank you guys for all the hard work and getting this integration put together to show everyone. And thank you everyone for coming.
Perfect. If there is no other questions, we'll give you 6 minutes back, and we are looking forward to get you guys to come in our next Tech Talk.
Everyone have a great day.